Do you know what this number is right here? I'm not sure if you can see it or if I'm covering it. No, I'm not covering it. But if you can see it, I'll put it up on the screen. If you can't, it is a big number. It is the shutter count of my R5 Mark I that I got back in July of 2020 when they first came out. I just sent my camera in, my R5 into Canon for a full cleaning, inspection, make sure it's all good. And one of the benefits of that is they send you your shutter count, which I had no idea was 194,000. That is insane. This R5, this is an incredible camera. But regardless of that, today I'm walking you through how I created this image from this image using generative AI. Now I'm all for using AI to create amazing images as long as it's upfront and honest about it. Not saying, hey, look at the image I shot. Ooh. No, I don't like that. When you use AI, say you used AI. When you use generative AI, when you created something, make sure you mention it because it gives false reality to people who are picking up a camera for the first time or who just want to create similar images. So be upfront, be honest, but have fun with it at least. I mean, that's what this is all about. My name is Will, welcome back to the channel, always good to see you. First and foremost, in 3 days is Christmas, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you had a wonderful year, ending it with a bang and planning an incredible 2025. Now before we get into Lightroom, I want to ask a question, which I will answer at the end of this video. Here is the raw image of this photo. I want you to tell me if you notice anything specific. You can comment down below if you notice it, but there is a special thing that I did to create this image, and I want to see if you can tell. But for right now, let's get into the edit. Now this is going to be kind of fast because I've already done this edit, so I'm going to go through it relatively fast. So if you have to stop and catch up or follow along or whatever you want to do, you can follow along, copy it as a preset later, but we're just going to go through this edit so it's not a super long video. So here we go. First, we're gonna start with the basic panel, and I want it to be a warm image. So we're gonna warm up the white balance to 775. Gonna get it really nice and toasty. Then we're gonna lower the tint to about -10. So we're gonna have that green and that orange look. Now, exposure, we're gonna raise it to about 0.5. Contrast, we're gonna add about 5 to 10 contrast in it. Highlights, we're gonna completely drop them down. Shadows, we're gonna basically raise them all the way up to about 90, 91. Whites and blacks, we're just gonna dip them down to about -5 each. Clarity, we're gonna do -8. Saturation, we're gonna dip it -2. Now a lot of this, it's not gonna look that great until the very end, so don't worry about it too much. Again, follow along, copy the settings, and then you'll see what happens. Now we're gonna go into the calibration. Now if you don't know much about the calibration, I highly recommend checking out this video here. This goes over calibration in full. But realistically, I use calibration kind of on a whim. Like I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to tweak the colors here. So I play with the sliders a little, see what looks good. I'm sure there's a more professional way to do that, but that's kind of what I do. I just slide them back and forth until they look good. So for the calibration on this image, we're gonna do the reds. We're gonna go to +24, saturation +8, +9. The blue, we're doing -10, get that orange and blue look, teal look, and green, we're gonna go to +45. Now, again, I've already tweaked this, so I know this looks good in the end, so try not to hate me yet and be like, this image is looking like crap, because yes, it is. So now we're gonna go back to the tone curve and we're going to set our points. So one here, one in the shadows, one in the midtones, one in the highlights. We're going to raise the midtones just a shade. We're going to lower the shadows just a shade, and we're gonna boost up the blacks a little bit, and this is going to give us our nice tone curve that makes the image look even worse. But let's fix that in the color mixer. So we're gonna start with the hue. So we're gonna start with greens. We're gonna make it 12. Aquas, we're gonna go to 9 or 10. Blues, we're gonna go to 10. Purples, we're gonna go to 15. Magenta, we're gonna go to 16. Now, in the saturation, we're gonna really drop a lot down. So the first thing, orange is gonna go, I'm just gonna enter these in because I think that'll be easier for me. -20, nope, that's not gonna be easier for me. Okay, -26, I'm just gonna slide them. We're gonna go to -52. Greens, we're gonna go to -50. Aquas, -7. Blues, -31. Purples, minus 28. Now there aren't many of these in here, so this doesn't really make too big a difference. And magenta, minus 24. Good. So now you notice everything's kind of balanced out. So here's the before where we started, here's the after. We're looking much nicer. Now a lot of this is going to be coming out of the image from Photoshop and mask. So keep watching because it gets better. Right now we're just doing global adjustments, then we get into the spicy goodness. All right, let's go into the detail tab and we're going to add, we'll have 40 sharpening. We're gonna make sure color noise is at 25. We're gonna raise the luminance noise to 60 and we're going to mask it at about 65. Good, so if we push and hold Alt or Option, you can see where we're doing the sharpening and the masking. So that cleans that up too. And finally, we're gonna go into the vignette and we're just gonna add minus 15 in the vignette. So there we go. Here's our before, here's our after. Now, if you wanted something dark and moody right now, you got it. You could end right now and have a beautiful, beautiful image. But we're gonna go into the masks and really, really make it pop. First thing is select subject. Let's rename it. I always name my masks. It just makes it a lot easier. Subject, we're gonna raise it to 0.40. That's gonna bring our image, our subject out of the image and make her pop. Then we're gonna lower her temperature to about minus 15. And that'll blend her with the image a little bit more. We're gonna dehaze her to sharpen her up a little, and we're gonna do that to about 10, 11. Good. Now we are going to do a background mask. I'm gonna right click on this, duplicate and invert, rename it background, BG. And for this one, we're gonna lower the clarity to minus 15, softens the background. We are going to dehaze minus 7. It's going to kind of fade it out a little bit. We're gonna raise the temperature to 2 to warm up the background a little bit more. And then we are going to go up to the exposure and do about 0.05 to increase the exposure of the background. Next, her legs look a little dark, so we're gonna brighten them up by using a linear gradient. Press M on the keyboard, drag it up here, push and hold Alt or Option for the intersect tool, press select subject, and we're just gonna brighten this up just a shade to about 0.30, just to balance it with her body. Then we're gonna do another linear, press M on the keyboard, drag it right up here to darken this area. And there we have it. So here is our before, here is our after. Now we're gonna take this into Photoshop and really make the image come alive. So right click on the image, go down to Edit In, and Edit in Photoshop. Before we get into Photoshop, do me a really quick favor and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I am trying to get 200 likes on this video. It is a big goal for me, so help me get there. All right, let's carry on, shall we? Now, like I said, I've already done this edit, so I'm just gonna walk you through because it's actually really, really simple. So the first thing we're gonna do is the background. We're gonna make a copy of it by pressing Command or Control J. This will make a background copy. Again, I already have it here, so here's our background. Now, this here I did because I wanted to try and add some wildflowers in this foreground. So I pressed the L for the lasso tool and I selected this section here. And then I did generative fill. I typed in wildflowers. I'll show you, this is what it came up with. It just kind of changed the grass texture, which I actually liked. It looked more strawy, so I kept that one. Next was the valley in the background. Now this was the difficult one. I used several prompts. I used the rectangular marquee tool by pressing M on the keyboard, or this here, and I selected this section here. And my prompt was valley with trees after several options. So valley with trees. And let me speed this up. So here's one that it came up with, here's another option, and here's another option. Now all of these options you can work with, and you just have to adjust the colors. So we're gonna go with the one that I got, just for sake of creating that image. All generative AI generations will be different. You'll never get the same one twice, or at least I've never gotten the same one twice. So this is the one that we got. Now, I like this one because it works with the image. The depth, the size ratios, they all seem to kind of work pretty well if this is cascading down a mountain and she's up a hill. But it needs to be a warm image. This is not very warm. So what I did was I added a curves adjustment. Now you'll notice that this curves adjustment, let's open it up here, was very, very simple. So the RGB, I just raised it a little. The reds, I raised it a little. The blue, I dropped it down a little bit. And the greens, I dropped it down a little bit. So this added that warmth to the image. Then, because the sky is still not really matching, I did another curves and I did the blues into the warm. So you'll notice how it turned a lot warmer. So I can adjust this again, right? Really make it warm, but this balanced it out even more. The next thing I did was use a PNG sun flare that I have, and I added that to the top left corner where the light is coming from that mountain. So you notice this creates this beautiful orange haze over the entire image and pulls it all together. It kind of makes the whole image match. The other thing that it does is because it's so bright and hazy, it actually distracts you from flaws that you might have noticed if it wasn't there. For example, you might have noticed that this up here isn't that perfect, but when I add the sun flare, your attention is pulled to the model and the flare, less the background. Yeah, you notice the background, but not as much. But you might be saying, yeah, but I still notice that this sky here is very, very blue, and you're very, very right. So I noticed that as well, which is why I used a hue saturation layer to balance it out even more. So here's before, after. Now it's not much, it's very, very subtle. I believe I did a lot of the work in Lightroom after. But here's the before from Lightroom, here's the after. And I think it looks amazing. So now let's go back into Lightroom. Now that we're back in Lightroom, there was a few more adjustments that I did because I wanted to pull the image a little bit more, and I really didn't like that upper right corner. So if you notice here, I actually used in Lightroom the Generative AI to kind of fill in the clouds. I'll show you before and after. And it kind of worked a little bit, but it still didn't work for me. It was just too much extra attention, so I wanted to adjust that. But first, I did some basic adjustments here. In the basic panel, I added a little bit more warmth, so 3 more, just a little bit more. I added a little bit more tint, so +2, just to, again, bring the image together and really give it that warm, ooey gooey feel. Exposure, I dropped it just a shade. The blacks I dropped a lot more just to add a little bit more contrast to the image. And then I went to the tone curve where I added a little bit more fade because I do really like the faded out blacks. I like it when there's no true black and it gives us this really faded grainy look. And then I just went to the color mixer and dropped the greens because I wanted everything to blend. Now, for an image like this, you can definitely go to the effects and add grain. It looks like I actually did add grain here, so you can add grain. So we're gonna add grain because grain is great for an image like this. 1, again, it hides flaws, and 2, it just gives that vintagey, beautiful feel. And then finally, we did a couple of more masks on here. We did a select subject, which we just dropped it about -10, just to darken her down because, again, the sun is behind her, so she would be a little bit darker. Then we did a radial over her right here. Shift M to create a radial, in case you were wondering, and I just dropped it down a little bit more to darken her a wee bit more. And then I did a sky brush. I did a brush, K on the keyboard, and I just brushed right here because I wanted to blow it out. I was thinking like, okay, if the sun is coming through this valley here and hitting the sky, this would be really, really bright and you probably wouldn't see it. So I just blew it out completely. 135 I think I did with a hell of a lot of contrast. I warmed it up a ton and added a lot of magenta. Now that looks really bad, so we're just gonna erase this part here. Let's just finish removing this and just make it look as, I mean, you can adjust it as needed, but that looked better. That seemed to work better for me. And then finally, her dress, I wanted to do a little bit on her dress really quick, just to make it a little bit whiter. So go to select subject, select people, we're gonna do clothes, create mask, and we're just gonna cool it down just a shade, just to balance it out and up the white just a bit. So there you have it. That is our image. Here is the before, here is the after. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Now for the answer to the question, the sun was completely down on this image. So what I did was I used a V1, a Godox V1 with an orange gel on it on a stand on back left of her. So camera left, behind her, facing her hair. This gave me this golden light on her hair that you see. It didn't exist before. Here, I'll show you. Here is without the light, right? And then here is with the light. Big, big difference. And that's an easy way to kind of create a false sun. So let me know if you got it right in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out all the fun goodies in the description of this video, from the gear list to items that I use and recommend to free presets and all kinds of fun gear and courses. That's it for this video. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'll see you in the next one.